Okay, so I have a hard truth for you here. Most people are doing something incorrectly upwards of 30,000 times a day. Talking about breathing. Yes, most people have a breathing dysfunction. Yes, that causes an increase in symptoms, an increase in pain perception, and a whole host of other problems. How can we expect to live this optimal life if the foundational thing that allows us to be alive is dysfunctional in the first place? So let's take a step back here. We come out of the womb being able to do two things. We can breathe and we can digest. Breathe is that whole cry thing, right? And digest, we can take and process food. Great. So those are the two things that we started off being able to do. Everything else is additional. But if we have a problem with one of those two things, that's a huge potential for really improving, right? The longer I do this, the more I realize that most things are actually dysfunctional in their supremely foundational levels. And the more I've been able to address breathing in my personal PT practice with our team and even with my athletes and even just as myself, the more benefits I've seen. So let's talk about what breathing should be like. So I'm gonna lie down to do this. I'm gonna encourage you to do the same. So the way that I start everybody out is lying down on their back in a comfortable position with their knees bent. Have you take one hand, place it on your belly, the other hand, place it on your chest. And all I want you to do is just lie there and breathe very gently in and out through your nose only. And just take inventory of what's going on. And I'll see if you can even see what's going on in the video. Okay, so as I lie here, I'm breathing in and out of my nose, and this bottom hand should be rising. This top hand should be pretty quiet. It might move a little bit, but for the most part, it's this. For a lot of people, we're gonna see this, where that bottom hand doesn't move a whole heck of a lot, but that top hand moves. So now let me explain. I got my diaphragm, which is this kind of skirt steak thing that runs along the lower part of my rib cage, is attached to my spine. And as I breathe in, it contracts and pulls down. That's gonna suck air in and inflate my lungs. Super cool. And then as I exhale, it's going to retract back up and air is gonna flow out of my lungs. So the normal motion is just kind of up and down here. That's our primary muscle of respiration. Now we have secondary muscles of respiration, which are, some of the muscles in between our rib cage are these scaling kind of neck muscles, and even anything that really attaches from my neck down to my ribs, anything that actually attaches from my shoulder blade up to my neck and or to my ribs. So we start looking at, well, like what's primary and what's secondary, and are we using the primary thing very well? And most people are not. So what we end up seeing is a lot of these like big stressful breaths. And that's doing more than a couple of things. But the one thing it's doing is it's sending a signal to your body that you're stressed out. This is normal. This is I'm being chased by a bear. That's not you. I don't want you to be chased by a bear. I want you to be safe and in the cave and everything's okay. Now we have a lot of other stressors because of course most of us don't get chased by bears very often. We got work stress, we got life stress, we got whatever kind of stress you want to imagine. And for a lot of us, we just kind of hold on to that. We've talked about stress before, but if we are, every single time we are breathing, that we are signaling to our body that we're in a stress state, do you think our body's going to release a stress response? Like, of course it is. So breathing has the potential, if we can take a minute and kind of self-assess and check in with ourselves, with what's going on, and we can force that to happen back down into that diaphragm. A lot of what our body thinks is going on too is like, oh, I'm good, I'm safe. I don't need to be stressed. I don't need to be having all these, releasing all these stress hormones. That's a good thing. Second thing is, for a lot of us that have neck pain, and this is probably one of the biggest things that we see a lot of people that have neck pain that are in these really high stress jobs or life situations or whatever it might be. But again, if that breathing pattern is all like upper chest mediated as opposed to diaphragm mediated, then you're going to be starting to use these muscles to breathe. That's not their job. Their job is to support your neck, maybe support your shoulders and your spine a little bit, And it's supposed to help you breathe when you need to run from the bear. But it's not supposed to be breathing for you 30,000 times a day because you're super stressed out. So if I am going to ask a muscle that it's not their job to do something 30,000 times a day and expect it not to get kind of pissed off, I don't think that's probably a poor expectation of that muscle. If I ask you to do something 30,000 times a day you don't want to do, you're going to be mad at me too. So part of what happens is those muscles get overused. Another thing that happens is because of some of this faulty breathing and because of this stress pattern, most of us actually hyperventilate. And when we hyperventilate, it means that we're actually breathing more than we need to. And this can even set off a whole nother sequela of things, including we start breathing out too much CO2, which actually turns us a little bit more alkaline, which means that we actually leach out a little bit of calcium out of our bones and into our bloodstream to try to buffer things out. So think about that from like an osteoporosis standpoint or osteopenic standpoint. And then that increase in calcium can actually cause our muscles to fire and kind of disrupt that calcium-potassium levels in our body, which are supposed to be about keeping our muscles able to contract and relax. So breathing can kind of give me increased muscle tension. It can overwork my muscles that are, again, doing things that they're not supposed to, and also just put me into a stressed mental and physiologic state. So what I want from this and what I want you to take from this is I want you to spend some time lying down on your back, hand on your belly, hand on your chest, and trying just to make that bottom hand move. As we get more advanced with this, we can be sitting up against gravity, because believe it or not, gravity is actually really hard to deal with. We don't think it is, but watch babies. It takes them like a year to get up and standing and relatively competent in doing so. So we take that for granted. Sometimes just being against gravity in our stress state is too much, and we go into a stressed breathing pattern. So can you breathe in and out of your belly when you're seated? Can you do it when you're standing? Can you do it standing on one leg? Can we do it when we're exercising? Can we do it when we're recovering from exercise? Can we do it when we're trying to calm our nervous system? Can we do it when we're at a red light and we can actually focus on it because we're not supposed to be focusing on other things? So I really want you guys to, like I said, the take-home version of this is I want you to focus here and see if you can correct this and see what it does for your mental and your physical state and see if it changes your life. And if it does, super stoked. If it doesn't, you might not be spending enough time in that diaphragmatic breathing pattern, that parasympathetic, if you want to get super technical about it. And I'm going to encourage you to find other ways to do that, whether that's a meditation practice, whether that's a breathing practice. My favorite app is called State, done by a group called Shift, and they have some great material. I use it at least once a day to kind of just recalibrate everything, and I've noticed some significant improvements. So highly recommend. All right, breathe better, live better.